This is Dave Meister. I reached out to his friends to ask if he wanted to do an interview. Now we've been talking every day for the last week. I'm happy to be a voice for him. He has a lot of things, a lot of knowledge he wants to get out to the outside world about what's going on within these prisons, especially within CCA. He's in Saguaro Correctional in Arizona, but he's an Idaho inmate. He gets into all that and explains it, but I had to record from one phone to another phone. They have it designed where you can't hear audio if you screen record.
They can see the struggle. Now I'm wound up. You know, say, fuck, Hawaii owes me money. How many books could I have sold to that state? That they, you know what I mean? So how long has that been? I don't know. I gotta find out. I'll be back.
Crazy. All right, man.
My name's Patrick. Everybody calls me Packy. I'm about to have my fourth baby with my high school sweetheart. I'm a life after prison content creator. I did 7 years in Ohio. If you want to collab, reach out to me. I do interviews on prison, paranormal, and true crime.
For the most part, they have them all networked together. So, like, if you go to the education department, they're on, like, some kind of central server, and they're all monitored. They don't even have hard drives in them. You know what I mean? They're all on some kind of local cloud they've created for the prison, you know? So, it's really monitored now. If you plug anything into the computer that you're not supposed to, it automatically sends an alert. They kind of got that figured out.
If anybody wondering, we're talking about how here in Ohio they took over the computers and built a supercomputer. You said in your state, Idaho, they've done that too. And we were talking about how you had a laptop at one point from your lawyer. What was it? What kind of laptop?
I had a couple different kinds. One was an old MacBook. You know, those old ones from the late 2000s kind of looked like a toilet cover. Toilet seat cover, you know, kind of fancy looking. I don't know. I ended up crapping out and I got another one, but I was able to negotiate that. I was in SAG for 3 years, and I had a murder charge, and I was going through a second trial after winning an appeal. So, for those of you who don't know, in a case like that, I'll have a huge amount. I have thousands of pages of transcripts, you know, thousands of pages of discovery. Most of it's not relevant to anything, but, you know, hundreds of video interviews with all kinds of suspects and experts and whatnot. And that's all called discovery. And those are all things that I would be reviewing all that to prepare for my trial. And I had a right to, right? But this little jail didn't have a way to accommodate that. They had these rules that said I could only have like a little bindle of paper, not near enough for all of my case files for me to be able to do real research. And so the workaround was to have my attorney put together a laptop and load it with all that stuff, and work with the prosecuting attorney and the judge and the jail commander to give me that laptop, you know, which is cool. I did have to imply that I was going to sue them for it. You know, that's the thing too, is if they have an obligation to allow you to review your audio files and video files and stuff like that, and they didn't have nothing set up for that. So that was just the easiest solution for them, even though they probably didn't like it. For me, for that 3 years, it kept me sane. I was able to work on my case, but I was also able to write my books. I wrote my first book, Battling the Administration, An Inmate's Guide to a Successful Lawsuit. I published that years later, 2014.
That is cool.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was nice. You know, I learned about computers too. I'm not a computer guy. I wasn't really savvy. But in that time, I was able to just kind of dig around on it, figure out a lot of stuff.
I'm gonna write down your book and stuff for the caption.
Sure.
And your website. You said Meister Archive?
Yeah, MeisterArchive.com.
Okay.
Yeah, that book, Battling the Administration, I ended up doing a second edition of that and renaming it. I just found out that it is on. So I'm down here in Arizona in a private prison that contracts for other states, to hold inmates for other states. And with me is Hawaii and Montana. I'm an Idaho inmate. I was talking to the Hawaiian guys, and on their banned book list are my books.
What?
Hawaii has banned my books, both my law books. Right?
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's the thing. They have no legitimate basis to do that. I don't know what their rationale is behind that. but the government is not allowed to just, because it doesn't want to get sued, try to deny materials that
help
that
people.
teach how to do that. Yeah. Especially, I mean, those books are for those out there. My books are for they focus on conditions of confinement, right? So overcrowding, medical care, food, religious stuff. So if you're in an environment where they're not meeting their constitutional minimums, the prison is just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. We have to sue. Inmates basically have to sue to get any kind of real change. Grievances really amount to nothing around here. And so I went through that process myself a couple of times, and I learned. I did a paralegal course, and then I studied on this. And I was even mentored by other jailhouse lawyers and stuff, and I learned about it. That's why I ended up writing that book, because it's very difficult. There's a lot of tricks. There's a lot of things that the government, there's laws the government has made, and cases, opinions that courts have cooked up over the years that make it very hard for inmates to sue about conditions of confinement, about overcrowding, cruel and unusual punishment, bad food. It's really tough, man. And there's a lot of like red tape involved in doing that. One of the requirements that they have is that an inmate has to satisfy the prison grievance process to the letter. If they do not, then it'll get kicked out of court. Whatever that issue is later on, when an inmate sues over it, it's automatically kicked out of court. And so the administrations, prison officials, they take advantage of that. So they have these pretty complicated grievance processes, where you have to meet timelines, and you have to include certain types of information, and they got games that they play to try to muddy that up. So when you go to court, man, they just file a motion to dismiss, say you didn't do the grievance right, and that's like 90% of the case law out there. If you look at prisoner rights claims, they're mostly getting kicked out for bad grievances, and we're talking guys that didn't graduate high school that have to become a legal expert just to do a prison grievance. You know what I mean? It's an issue. So I took my knowledge and I tried to put together a little pamphlet. Right? I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna write something that just to give these guys everything in a nutshell, give them an advantage. If they have to do this stuff. But anyway, I'm sitting in jail for all those years. It turned into a book. It turned into a huge book.
Yeah.
So it's a manual now, and I ended up rewriting it several times, and it basically walks them through everything, gathering evidence to the appeals, even if they lose. And that's why I tried to focus on things too that aren't in other manuals. So there's a couple manuals out there. Mine is generally rated second. I'll take that credit.
That's cool.
And for the legal manuals that are out there for inmates, and where mine lacks in comparison to others, there's lack in comparison to mine, where I focus on. And I did. I focused. Mine is written from an actual inmate's perspective, and I mean, I could just tell you right now, if you have a constitutional issue, if you got an issue with medical or something like that, they're not treating your diabetes, or they're not doing the surgery for a hernia, something like that. You're not going to win on some obscure piece of case law. You know what I mean? You're not going to make some kind of fancy legal argument that's going to win the day. What it comes down to is how well these inmates have preserved the facts. You know what I mean? How well have they documented what's going on with who said what, who denied them the care exactly. So a lot of these inmates, they file a lawsuit and they just sue the prison. You know what I mean? They don't really know who's responsible for what. Their timelines are all screwed up because they're just not lawyers,
Right.
And so anyway, that's what my books are about. The law book anyway. I have other books, but so for Hawaii to ban the book, it's already a win for me because I'm the author. I actually have standing. I'm going to sue Hawaii. I'm going to give them a cease and desist here soon and see what they respond. But if not, I should be able to get some damages for. First of all, they didn't give me any notice. They didn't give me or the publisher notice that they were going to do this, and that's a prerequisite to banning anything. I have to have due process, right?
Yeah.
And I got to have a hearing. They need to explain to me what exactly is objectionable and allow me to make a defense. That's what due process is about, and it applies in a lot of contexts. So that's one. They've already violated that right. So that's a slam dunk right now. And then the other one is the First Amendment. I have a right to speak